Cleopatra. You hear that name and you think of power. You think of Rome. You think of that legendary final act. But what if I told you her greatest, most dangerous threat wasn't a Roman general at all? It was her own teenage sister. This is the incredible story of Arsinoë, the forgotten queen who came this close to completely erasing a legend from our history books. All right, so picture this. Alexandria is on fire. The city is under siege. And from inside the royal palace, a teenage princess slips out into the chaos. But she isn't trying to escape. No, she's running towards the fight. She walks right up to her brother's army and with unbelievable nerve declares that she is now their leader. And this isn't just some political power grab. This is deeply personal. The person she's targeting, the one trapped inside that very palace, is none other than her older sister, the most famous woman in the ancient world, Cleopatra. This is the ultimate sibling rivalry, and it's about to be written in blood.
So who is this princess? Her name is Arsinoë, and her entire life she's been living in Cleopatra's shadow. But now she's stepping into the light. She's presenting herself as the true queen of Egypt, one who hasn't been tainted by Rome. The shadow is finally biting back.
But what on earth would drive a teenager to wage war on her own family? I mean, really? To get why Arsinoë did what she did, you have to understand the absolutely cold-blooded political world she was born into. The Ptolemies had been running the show in Egypt for 300 years, and they kept power in the family, often by marrying their own siblings. But that power was resting on a powder keg. They were in massive debt to Rome. And when an 18-year-old Cleopatra takes the throne with her 10-year-old brother, you've got two more siblings, including Arsinoë, waiting right there in the wings. In this family, the line of succession wasn't a line, it was a hit list. And the scale of this debt was just staggering. Try to imagine this. Up to half of your country's entire annual income is going straight out the door to foreign creditors. That's the reality they were facing. A debt that big isn't just a financial problem. It's a giant flashing invitation for Rome to come in and start meddling. Now, Cleopatra was never one to share the spotlight. She was supposed to rule with her little brother husband, but she basically ignored him, held ceremonies by herself, and get this, she even minted coins with only her face on them. This ambition, this refusal to share power, created some very powerful enemies in her own court, who eventually managed to kick her out of the city. But Cleopatra was nothing if not a survivor. When Julius Caesar shows up in town to collect on all those debts, she has herself smuggled into his rooms inside a sack. By the time the sun came up, she had his full support. The problem was, when Caesar forced the city to take Cleopatra back as queen, the people didn't see him as a peacemaker. They saw him as an invader. And the entire city of Alexandria just exploded with rage. And as all of this chaos is unfolding, Arsinoë is watching. She sees her sister and this Roman general trapped inside the palace, totally surrounded by angry citizens. She doesn't see a crisis here. She sees an opportunity, the perfect moment for the ultimate hostile takeover. And her plan, you have to admit, was pretty brilliant. Step 1, identify the weakness. Her sister is incredibly unpopular and is backed by a foreign army. Easy enough. Step 2, build a faction. She channels all that anti-Roman anger and directs it towards herself. And step 3, the big one, seize the army. She gives these angry Egyptian soldiers a new, pure-blooded Egyptian queen to fight for. And just like that, with an army at her command, Arsinoë begins a brutal siege against her own siblings. For 4 long, agonizing months, the walls are closing in on Cleopatra and Caesar. So on one side, you've got Arsinoë's militia, an entire army of Alexandrians absolutely furious at this Roman interference. On the other side, Caesar's legions. Yeah, they're outnumbered and they're trapped, but these are some of the most battle-hardened soldiers in the entire world. The city became an absolute war zone. But at the end of the day, you can only hold off the full might of the Roman military for so long. Eventually, fresh legions broke through from the east. The rebellion just collapsed. The city surrendered, and Arsinoë was captured. The climax of Arsinoë's incredible ambition doesn't happen in Egypt. It happens in Rome. She is literally dragged in shackles through the streets of the city as part of Caesar's triumphal parade, a public spectacle designed for maximum humiliation. Now, the Roman mob was used to some pretty cruel entertainment, but this was different.
Seeing a captive queen, a princess from this legendary dynasty, being paraded towards what they all assumed was her execution, that was a rare and, frankly, shocking sight. And right here, in this moment, the whole script just flips. Instead of jeering and shouting, the crowd is moved to pity. They actually start protesting, demanding that Caesar spare this captured princess. And in a stunning turn of events, Caesar, ever the politician, actually listens to them. Arsinoë's life is spared.
So, Arsinoë is sent into a comfortable exile, supposedly safe under Roman protection in a sacred temple. But here's the thing about the Ptolemies. Mercy is temporary. For Cleopatra, letting a rival queen, a rival sister, live, well, that was a risk she was never ever going to take.
A few years go by. Caesar is dead, and now Cleopatra has allied herself with a new Roman powerhouse, Mark Antony. And what's her very first request for her powerful new lover? It isn't for more gold or more land. Nope, it's personal. She demands that Arsinoë must finally die.
So Antony's men stormed the temple of Artemis, where Arsinoë was living in sanctuary. They dragged her from a place that was supposed to be untouchable, and they brutally executed her right there on the temple steps. A final, sacrilegious end for the queen who almost was. With her sister finally silenced, Cleopatra was the undisputed queen. But that brutal act, that murder on sacred ground, it would echo through history. And in a very real way, it would come back to haunt her in the end. This quote really captures the central truth of their entire dynasty. For the Ptolemies, power was a zero-sum game. And the people you should have been able to trust the most, your own flesh and blood, were always, always your deadliest enemies. Because 16 years after Arsinoë's death, when Cleopatra was the one facing defeat at the hands of another Roman, Octavian, she knew exactly what was waiting for her. She remembered her little sister being dragged through the streets of Rome in chains, and she absolutely refused to suffer that same humiliation. In the end, the memory of her sister's humiliation is what gave Cleopatra the resolve to choose her own death, denying her enemy his ultimate triumph. And it leaves us with one final chilling question. In the ruthless game of absolute power, is family a weakness or is it a weapon?